And one of the things that, I mean, just to jump in there, because I think this is really interesting, your insights into what, you know, the aggression seems to be part of this vision of modernity, or the separation, certainly the way the West has developed it. Aggression is part of, if you like, the individualism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit about that, and what, and then the idea of dominating nature, and you've got you've got a whole set of insights into where this the ideological roots, if you like, of this tendency to focus on war and aggression rather than look after nature and look after people.
Well, that's a good steer, because we should get down to the specific things. One of the hidden injuries is, well, let's take international aggression first.
Yeah.
Now, if you look, and here's where you have to look at history. If you look at the history of Western civilizations for the last 2,500 years, say from Greece. Greece was born within warfare across the Mediterranean, warfare between Sparta and Athens, warfare everywhere. And you then get an extremely warlike civilization building up Rome, an empire built on military power and aggression. It's then followed by a long period of eternal warfare, because you get, on the one hand, a war of religious ideologies between Islam and Christianity, and a war building up by the growth of nation states in Europe. And that's compounded by, from the 15th century, by the growth of gunpowder weapons. So if you look at any standard history of war, you'll see that some part of Europe between, say, the Romans and, say, the middle of the last century, somewhere in Europe, there was a considerable war going on all the time. Britain, for example, was at war with someone for 3/4 of its history.
Yeah.
So war is absolutely central. And it's based, as Kant and others have pointed out, not only on the fact that you have this idea that other people are like you and therefore they are going to attack you, and if you don't defend yourself and build up your defenses and so on and so on. So it's Darwinian survival of the fittest, but at a national and international scale, which has gone on for 2,500 years. And that sort of world we had sort of thought after the last war, after each great world war, after the 30 Years' War and Treaty of Versailles, and after the First World War and Treaty, and we think, oh, well, you know, we'll build up a world organization, we'll deal with that. And then it crumbles away. And so it's gone on and on. But recently, the ridiculousness of it with nuclear weapons. I mean, the Russians and the Chinese, and no doubt the Americans, are now building new kinds of supersonic nuclear weapons, which you can't stop. They're so fast that basically there is no defense against them. So it's just people sitting, you know, in different corners of the world with their finger on a button because they've got 0.1 second before they'll be blown to pieces. And that's, you know, the only thing they can do in that situation is have the sweet revenge of blowing the other people at the same time. Now that's such a ridiculous world. So basically, how do we think about moving to a world where 2,500 years of militaristic history? Now, as if that wasn't difficult enough, because we've all been brought up with it. I mean, your education. I don't know about you, but I was brought up playing with toy soldiers and battles and glorifying war. And every time, I mean, you just have to, every few months in this country, we glorify war. We have Poppy Day, or we have Armistice Day, or we have, and people, you know, the army come out and they parade and we say, wonderful, wonderful. And we turn on our televisions and almost every program has soldiers marching around and guns being fired. And so, you know, we are brought up with that and we've assumed it and it's part of our history. On top of that, you have other particularly strong pressures, one of which is obviously computer games. Now, I don't play them much, but I know enough to know that 90% of the games that young people spend often 2, 3, 4 hours a day on are extremely violent computer games, killing people, just killing people again and again and again. And if it's not killing people, it's very aggressive, you know, garage games with sort of cars and things. So it's basically how you get your adrenaline feed and excitement is out of that. And even if it's in less direct ways like sports and so on, it's based on winning and losing and overcoming and battling and so on and so on.
Do you think these are linked directly to types of civilization, or do you think this is a universal trait?
No, well, I'll just come on to that
Yeah.
in a moment with the third
Right.
pressure, which is the vested interests. Now, we know that the reason why they're not disinvesting from oil is because governments are hugely in the thrall of the lobbyists and the oil business pressures. And we know, ever since we were told about the military industrial complex, that places like America, to actually say we are going to decline our, decrease our expenditure on weapons seriously, would immediately, you would lose the election, because all sorts of bits of information would come out about you, which was held by Mobile and SO and what of it. So basically, you're up against very, very powerful forces in trying to do anything about this, as well as your history and so on. So that's the situation. So if we remain within it, we'll just go on with this dreadful cycle. And of course, we'll just blow ourselves up. This is why Martin Rees, the Astronomer Royal, said that he doesn't predict that our civilization will last for more than another 30 or 40 years now. We'll blow ourselves up. It won't be a whimper, i.e. ecological. It'll be a bang. But not all civilizations are like that.